right, next up, we've got the Queen's Gambit Decline Tarrasch. And the Tarrasch is one of those openings that I just get sick of playing. I hate having to play against it, not because I think it's a great opening or anything like that. It's just on a fundamental level, I feel like I should beat the Tarrasch anytime I'm playing anyone who is playing it against me, period. You're pretty much guaranteed an isolated pawn, and Black's just looking to trade down and hold an ending where he's worse. If they're a very dynamic player, it's been played by players like Kasparov in the past until he started running into players like Karpov who could just squeeze everything out of the position. And that's what I'm hoping to do with these brief lines that I'm going to show you. So let's go ahead and get into this. And the characteristic move of the Queen's Gambit Tarrasch is the c5, where we're going to capture without any further ado. And if you don't like these following lines, you can just play solidly if you like with e3. This is a full alternative. And the main thing you need to know about playing this is the main move is a3, because if Black plays bishop e7, we're looking to capture, tempo the bishop, and then develop. So that's why in this position it's either cd4 or dc4 that Black typically plays, or a6 and does copycat himself. If he doesn't isolate your pawn, which is pretty much a transposition into our Queen's Gambit accepted lines, which is why you might like this, we go c5. And after queen c2, bishop b5, and we get ourselves an interesting game. And the other way is d takes c4, where, like I said, we're in Queen's Gambit accepted territory. So I just wanted to mention that because most of the time it goes into those Queen's Gambit accepted lines. If you're more comfortable with that, could be an option playing that e3. But I'm a big fan of when I can get the isolated pawn, I'm going to do it. And notice the move order because it's important here. White did not put the knight on c3. This is critical because that's where all the main lines and all the Tarrasch books have hammered these positions and given Black all these paths to, I would say dynamic equality, but it's really not. It's just equal. So, key thing. Let's first isolate the pawn, make his bishop move again. And now not knight c3, but a3. And I've liked these ideas for a while, and since I've changed personally to playing these positions against the Tarrasch, my results against it with very strong players has gone up substantially because they just can't play the normal trade down moves that they like to play and follow in the books. They're having to think here, and I'm able to keep tension better than with the knight c3 lines. So I feel this is superior. So let's look at some sidelines here first, other than the main line, which is castling. Let's first start with a5. And this is a knee-jerk reaction move that I've seen quite frequently because I want to stop you from playing b4. That's why you played a3. Okay, but you're also weakening key squares in the future. So let's see this excellent game from 2007 where Boris Golko had white. He first starts off with bishop g5, then knight c3, and I am a lot more willing to go into these lines with knight c3 now because Black inserting a5 has left his pawn structure a bit weaker for the future. And then we have an old school long-term maneuvering game. Black's doing what he normally does, which is trade pieces in these lines, and White is getting to an endgame where it's the knight pair against the knight and bishop. And notice all the weak pawns that White can harass in this endgame, where White definitely does some harassment, taking it to this rook and pawn ending, which is a win. So coming on back, we got knight e4 immediately. Well, the memory marker with this is knight f to d2, because we need to unleash the eye of the bishop, putting even more pressure on this knight. So you got one of two choices here: capture me and develop me, or try to hold it down. And if you try to hold it down, we're going to take it all the way to an ending, hitting that e-pawn and the bishop, continuing to pressure, and white's just got this little something, and this deviates from a game from 2015, knight b4, and this is very forcing going into this line, bishop f4, where super easy to play against the one weakness in the position. And this is what we're looking for, the playing for two results type position versus the Tarrasch. Sometimes you can't avoid trading down, but if we're going to trade down, we need to do it with a purpose. We're saddling our opponent with a weakness. So last and definitely not least, we've got ourselves castles, b4, bishop's meant to go there, knight c3. I'd love to have the bishop pair if you'll allow it. Thank you, sir. Now we need to worry about our e-pawn. And don't be in too much of a hurry to play these moves like e3 because you're going to self-pin. Let's go ahead and slowly get out of this. Queen d3. Pressurizing that isolated d-pawn. Put the question to the b. Finally, since we have opened up that I, we're able to play bishop takes d5 with good effect here. Knight takes, rook takes, queen c3, getting off the pin and threatening mate. Simply organizing our pieces for maximum effectiveness here. h4, can't easily be kicked away. I like that move f3. Shuts down the eye of the bishop. No worries about getting mated anytime soon. h5, fully restricting the pawn structure on the king side. And it's just slow, steady improvements. You don't need to be in a hurry when playing against an opening like the Tarrasch. You just need your slightly better position, which white got from his work that he put in all game here. And he's just going to slowly outplay black. And I love how the bishop has gone from being a non-factor to making winning threats in this game. And now the bishop is blunted, so the knight's going to be able to hop all around. And it does, going on to win this game from 2014, where Tiger Hlark Pearson has white in the game. So overall, with the Tarrasch, you got your options with 4e3 and playing the symmetrical structure, or going for the isolated pawn. Key memory marker and idea is waiting on the development of the knight on c3 so we can take on d5. And should add that if black decides to take, we have these lines as well. And I'm a big fan of capturing, and then we go for a plan with knight a4. Let's say, for instance, castles, knight a4, followed by bishop e3 and rook c1. And it's not the hardest position in the world for white to play, playing against the c-pawn there. Slow, steady improvements. And that will do it for the Tarrasch.